Or lads, Blood Bowl 3 is the newest adaptation of the board game by Games Workshop, developed by Cyanide and published by Necon. It updates the Blood Bowl series with the new features, units, and updated rules that match the board game current rule set. It is undoubtedly the most complete and aesthetically pleasing way to play Blood Bowl yet, but it doesn't suffer from being absolutely impregnable to the newcomers. For those who don't know, Blood Bowl is a turn-based board game set in the Gamers Workshop's fantasy Warhammer, what plays similarly to the blend of American football and rugby. It features the brutal beatdowns similar to the NFL Blitz, intricate team building akin to the sport management sim, and light-hearted fantasy scheme filled with orcs, elves, trolls, dwarves. Successful matches in the Blood Bowl 3 are as much about your performance on the field as your construction of the team beforehand. This means that playing Blood Bowl 3 starts with getting a team. Players can have numerous teams active at a time and are able to use all of the both in offline match against AI opponents or online against other players. When making a team, players first choose from the 12 types such as Rad Humanoid, Skaven, Orc, Nuggle, Imperial Nobility, or Elven Union. Each team has a difficulty rating of 5 stars as well as a pros and cons list tucked away that players can consult when choosing. While I'm sure that the pros and the cons are helpful for the player once they have a grip on the Blood Bowl 3, it doesn't next to nothing for that don't. It would help a lot if the teams had more detailed information on how they are intended to be played or breakdowns of some of their unique units and features to help new players find one that works for them. It also would help new players a lot if they started off with a beginner-friendly team to learn with. Once a player has chosen the type of the team when they want to play, they are given an immersive amount of the control over it. With a starting budget, players are able to hire players modified with them with skills and traits, hire boosting staff like the assistant coaches and the other upgrades. On top of that, players are also able to customize their teams with the uniforms, logos, playing field, cheerleaders, and other tweaks to make them feel unique. This process is thankfully made accessible through an option to start with a balanced team that favors the team playstyle. After assembling a team, players are able to entertain them into the locally played leagues or challenge other players online. To learn the game, there is a brief tutorial league for the players to run through, but it also leaves a lot of details about how to play out. Having only a passing familiarity with the Blood Bowl before starting, it took multiple games to feel as true I finally understood the rules of the game enough to form strategies and competently approach the games. The learning process is made even harder if the player makes the mistakes of making a team with any real complications. The offline leagues also each feature their own coach for players to face off against that are accompanied by small introduction cutscenes. These work fine to set up the character and show players a bit more of the world, but as they stand now, I don't see offline leagues being played the majority of the time unless it is new by players learning to the ropes or more experienced ones using them to the test on teams before taking them online. Actual games of the Blood Bowl are played over 2 halves, during both of which each team has 8 turns. Game starts with a coin toss to determine who kicks the receives to start the game, with both teams then trying to score touchdowns in zones and opposite side of the field. However, play never entirely stops, meaning the players constantly have to move players and interact with another of each other turns. Turns are played out in turn-based fashion, with each player having stats that determine their movement and skills when it comes to actions like catching the ball, knocking other players down, and dodging attacks from the other players. Every time an action is performed, it requires a skill check made by rolling a 6-sided die. If a player either fails a skill check, their turn is immediately ended on the top of the action failing. There is a ton of the key track of during play, especially when it comes to learning the ropes. With a single bad roll ending turn in early, It can also be very punishing while trying to learn that works well and what doesn't. The learning curve is well worth it. However, as once the player begins understanding what strategies and tactics work with their team, they have a lot of room to customize their approach and adapt the actions for the enemy team. Blood Bowl 3 also takes an interesting approach to the lifespan of one team. As players finish matches and status over the team stays constant, forcing them to manage growing budgets, player inquiries, and upgrades in between each map. This layer helps develop a connection between the player and their teams, as well as giving players a ton of control over their team as they develop it. Blood Bowl 3 is undoubtedly the best way to experience the Blood Bowl. It's filled with a character brimming with options, and they have plenty of deep for players and explore, toy around with it. It's unfortunately that it doesn't give new players the proper tools to break throughout its crust. However, it is well survivably live, die by its online community. For those that are hungry for more brutal sports actions, however, you will be hard pressed to find anything better. Bye. Subscribe.